more on this, we can go across France 24's Irris Makler standing by in Jerusalem. Irris, what's the latest on the ground in Gaza? Have troops entered at all?
Troops have not entered, although we did hear overnight that they were going to. That was reported in the early hours of the morning. Then that was retracted by the Israeli military. But now it appears that it actually was a ploy of sorts, that they were never going to, well, not never, but were not going to invade last night. What they did plan was a coordinated, it was the most intense night of airstrikes. 160 planes took off at the same time. They were doing a particular kind of bombing, looking for subterranean targets. They say that the Palestinians have built an underground city, basically. So many tunnels all connected together. And they wanted the soldiers to be in them because they have particular weaponry that can go under the buildings and get to that area. So that's what they planned. There was also artillery and tank fire. It was coordinated and it was intensive. And it is now believed that the soldiers did go underground when they heard that there was a ground war beginning. And that's where they were caught. It's believed that dozens of them died. We are also hearing this afternoon in the West Bank. I do have to say that all along today, since that time, as those details become clearer, we nevertheless do see airstrikes, and we do see, just in the last half hour actually, more rocket fire into Israel. We do also see that in sporadic protests across the West Bank, 2 people have died this afternoon in clashes with Israeli police, and 2 more in the morning. That's a total of 4 dead altogether in the West Bank today.
Now, Israel, Jewish and Arab mobs have clashed for a 4th straight night in Israeli cities, including Lot. What's the latest on that front?
It's a great worry for Israel. In fact, some people say it's more of a worry to the ordinary Israeli and to the Israeli society as a whole than actually the war in Gaza. Because what this means is that people who have lived side by side in the same city, in the same street, sometimes in the same building, are now turning on each other. And we see clashes, we see cars being burned, we see mobs beating up, one person from the other side. So you'll see a mob of young Arab men beating up a Jewish man. You'll see a mob of young Jewish men beating up an Arab man. And it is vicious and it's unexpected. And it's now gone on for 4 days. And the mayor of that town of Lod says that despite the huge police presence, he really fears that Israel is on the brink of a civil war.
Wow. Now, Irris, how is all of this going to play out politically, if you will? Because we know that there's been political limbo in Israel for 2.5 years. We've had successive elections in the country. Does Benjamin Netanyahu stand to gain politically from this?
This is a very timely question because the timing in all of this is actually exquisite. The opposition, Benjamin Netanyahu failed to put together a government. The opposition had the chance. They had the numbers. They were about to go to the president and say, yes, we can do it. And that includes an Arab party for the first time in Israel's history, an Arab party inside the coalition. And the Gaza war began and the attack on Jerusalem began, the Hamas attack began. And what that meant was that everybody on that side got cold feet, and the right-wing leader who said that he was going to be the prime minister, even though he has a very small party, he said, no, he can't do it, and he's going back to Netanyahu. So Netanyahu has benefited from this, although I don't think, having seen the surprise in Israel, I don't think there was in any sense in which it was planned by Israel.
Irris, thank you very much for that. Irris Makler reporting there from Jerusalem. Now, the Israeli-Palestinian